in this vast multiverse.
Welcome back, Screen Crush. I'm Ryan Airy. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness was a game changer for the MCU. We got our first mutants, the Fantastic Four, the Inhumans, now all MCU canon. But they also added one story point that makes me go back and revisit the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe: dreams. Now, according to this movie, when a character in the MCU dreams, they're actually seeing their multiversal selves. Now, this is actually a game changer for this franchise. We're going to go back and look at some other dreams in the MCU and explain their new meaning. But most importantly, this means that the Marvel multiverse actually first appeared all the way back in Avengers Age of Ultron, and that Wanda has always had the power to see across the multiverse, and that she is going to be a key figure in the great multiversal war to come, Secret Wars. Now, we've already seen MCU characters use a dream state to ascend to a different plane of consciousness. For instance, when the Black Panthers visit the realm of the dead. Now, I know some of you are going to say that I'm just retconning, going through the MCU and acting like they always had this planned. I have a response to that I'm going to go over in just a minute. First, let's talk about dreams. In our world, reality, dreams are byproducts of our REM cycle, when unique electrical pulses fire off in our brains. Most researchers agree that dreams are a way for our minds to process and catalog our memories, or to process traumatic events. A good metaphor is that your brain is sorting its memories into recycling bins and dumpsters. See, I'm saying all this because I think that a portion of this still applies to the characters in the MCU. Characters are drawn to certain multiversal counterparts with experiences they relate to. For instance, Wanda misses her boys, so she always dreams of her other selves that still have kids. I also think that the dreamer's individual experiences can affect what they see in a dream. Like, if someone's had a particularly traumatic life, then it creates a kind of static interference that inhibits the dream signals that they're receiving from the multiverse. Let me give you an example from the show Punisher.
Wait, is Punisher in the MCU?
Now, that's a great question. Now, before the multiverse entered the MCU, I would have been like, probably not. The Marvel movies refused to acknowledge the TV shows because they were made by a competing division within Marvel, boring corporate stuff.
Talk about damage to the ear canal, am I not right?
I just can't.
Yeah, no, and
But recently, those Marvel Netflix shows have migrated to Disney+. Charlie Cox and Kingpin appeared in Spider-Man No Way Home and Hawkeye. And Vincent D'Onofrio has said that this isn't quite the same version of the Kingpin, that he's just a little bit different. Now, we've made videos in the past that surmise that these Marvel Netflix shows took place out there in the multiverse. Marvel can keep any elements they want and disregard others. Like, John Barenthal can still play the Punisher, but he's not quite as violent. Now, I'm going through all this so we can establish that Punisher is more than likely part of the MCU, maybe even just part of the multiverse. So, in Punisher Season 1, Frank has a dream. His family is alive, and they're having dinner with Micro's family. Everything is perfect.
Welcome home, Frank.
Welcome home.
Frank.
Thank you.
But then, leaves start to fall from the ceiling like the day Frank's family was killed in the park. Then, men with guns storm into the dining room. Now, is this surreal stuff literally happening to Frank's multiversal self?
I don't think so.
I think that Frank was longing for his family, so his mind reached out to a version of himself where they had never died, where they also happened to know Micro's family. But Frank's own trauma resisted this perfect image. His brain rejected that perfect reality. So it sent these other images into his mind to show him that it was not real. We see a similar dream in Falcon and the Winter Soldier when Bucky relives his days as Hydra's #1 assassin. Now, at this point, Bucky spends all his free time with the father of that man he killed. His guilt is all-consuming. He cannot stop thinking about atoning for that murder. So his mind gravitates toward a reality where he is in the act of killing this kid. And since the multiverse is infinite, he keeps finding realities where this is happening, over and over and over. Doug, hey, Doug, where'd you go?
I'm in the break room, in this comfy Allform chair.
Oh, okay, gotcha. He's always hogging that chair. He loves it because it's by far the comfiest seat that we have. And it was really easy to assemble. See, it was made by Allform, the sponsor of this video. This armchair is incredibly comfortable and fits perfectly in our break room. It was also great that we could pick the exact color that we wanted. But what I like best is that Allform sofas and chairs let you personalize the furniture to your space. So if Doug keeps hogging the chair, maybe we'll get a couch. You can create more than 500 unique combinations with seat numbers, corners, chassis, ottomans, however you like to get comfortable. If you like to put your feet up, get extensions. If you move into a bigger place, you can just order extra pieces. I put the chair together really fast, and your sofa can come together in as little as 15 minutes. But the best part about all this is that Allform delivers your furniture right to your door for free. Now me, I don't like to buy furniture without trying it out first. So Allform has a 100-day trial, so you get more than 3 months to make sure that you love it. If you don't, they'll pick it up for you and you'll get a full refund. So if you're looking for some new seating, check out Allform. Visit the link below or go to allform.com/screencrush for 20% off the sofa of your choice.
I'm very comfy. I'm gonna go to sleep now.
The earliest dream in the MCU was actually Bruce Banner dreaming in the Incredible Hulk.
Bruce, wake up.
Now, looking back, we can see that this isn't just Bruce reliving the horror of being the Hulk. His mind was connected to his multiversal selves who were experiencing those same traumas. And this is like another MCU dream that's rooted in trauma, Tony's PTSD flashbacks.
Wait, you're just retconning things.
What?
You're just going back in the movies and saying, well, that was a dream and this was a dream. People come here for thoughtful analysis and you're just making stuff up.
All right, maybe. But let's assume this. Maybe those early dreams in the MCU were just dreams. Like maybe Veers really was just dreaming of her fragmented memories at the beginning of Captain Marvel. But after the multiverse exploded at the end of Loki, people's dreams began to connect to the multiverse.
Fair.
Thank you. But I still think there is a clear instance of multiversal dreaming in the MCU before the end of Loki, and that is Wanda's visions in Age of Ultron and Loki's vision of the multiverse in the final episode of Season 1. Now, just like T'Challa's vision of the afterlife, Loki experiences a journey that transcends time and space. Now, we covered this very in depth in our Easter egg video, but what Loki experiences are sound bites and snippets of his lives across the multiverse, beginning with the sound of himself as an infant crying. He goes on to hear world events occurring all through the multiverse.
My dream.
We have fought for the right to experience peace.
Now, all of these events end up with his mind traveling into the sacred timeline, transcending this flow of time, so he can enter a place outside of time, the castle of He Who Remains. So this shows Loki entering a kind of dream state to cross a multiversal threshold.
Open your eyes.
Now, we actually made a video comparing his vision of the multiverse to Doctor Strange's, showing why they're experiencing the same view of the multiverse.
Who are you in this vast multiverse?
I think it is possible that the multiverse and dreams have always been connected, but it's just more common after the multiverse split apart. Now, this is where Wanda comes into this, but first we have to understand the origin of her powers. We saw in WandaVision that she had these powers as a child.
Did you stop that bomb?
What?
Used a probability hex.
But they were fully unlocked by the Mind Stone, specifically when the Mind Stone presented her with a vision of the Scarlet Witch. So this ties the Infinity Stones to the Scarlet Witch entity.
What do you mean by Scarlet Witch entity?
Well, the Scarlet Witch isn't just Wanda's identity, it's a force of energy that was created by Chthon.
Scarlet Witch is not born, she is forged.
She has no coven, no need for incantation.
Now, we get snippets of this in the Multiverse of Madness, but Chthon was an elder god who ruled the Earth millions of years ago. Before he was banished, he carved his runes into Wundagore Mountain, and those runes were copied to the Darkhold. Chthon is the source of chaos magic, and the Scarlet Witch is the raw embodiment of chaos magic. She is a being of pure destruction destined to return Chthon to the Earth.
This is chaos magic, Wanda. And that makes you the Scarlet Witch.
So, when Wanda saw this vision of her future self, she was actually seeing the Scarlet Witch entity seeking her out and attaching itself to her. I think it's important to note that the Wandas we see in other realities are not the Scarlet Witch, yet, even though the Darkhold exists in those other realities. I believe that Chthon wants the Scarlet Witch to cause incursions. That's when two realities collide and one of them is destroyed, because the breaking of realities makes Chthon stronger. So, any chance he gets, he sends the Scarlet Witch Chaos Energy Force to a Wanda through the Infinity Stones so she will break reality. Now, we've talked about this in the past, that the Infinity Stones are all connected. A deleted Age of Ultron scene describes them as
the Infinite Six cannot be joined nor kept apart.
implying that they are drawn toward one another. And the Red Skull said this about the Soul Stone.
You might say it has a certain wisdom.
So the Infinity Stones have a governing central intelligence. They are connected. This is how Wanda and Pietro were given the powers of other stones through the Mind Stone. Pietro has the abilities of the Space Stone, and Wanda can rewind time, change reality, and mess with people's minds. But now we've learned that it's actually the Scarlet Witch entity that unlocked those abilities. Maybe Wanda even subconsciously gave Pietro the Space Stone ability as a protective measure, so he'd always be able to move himself out of harm's way. Didn't work out very well.
You didn't see that coming.
What you say?
So, this Scarlet Witch chaos magic was able to use the Infinity Stones as a conduit, and this lines up perfectly with what we've seen about Chthon, the multiverse, and the stones. Chthon exists across the multiverse in all these different realities, and the stones protect and guard the multiverse, like the Ancient Ones said.
The Infinity Stones create what you experience as the flow of time. Remove one of the stones, and that flow splits.
So the Scarlet Witch, by her nature, is tied to the multiverse. So the visions she showed the Avengers in Age of Ultron were actually dream states that showed them a window into other realities. You don't believe me? Let's go through these visions. First, Thor's. Now, we did a whole video breaking down how his vision came true in Infinity War, but let me recap. Thor sees a vision of Heimdall saying,
They see everything. They see you leading us to hell.
because he was responsible for Hela being freed. And there's also,
You're a destroyer, Odinson.
because he was responsible for destroying Asgard. And then he kills people with lightning, foreshadowing his powers in Ragnarok. But more importantly, he sees a vision of the Infinity Stones coming together to form the Infinity Gauntlet. And later on, he says,
I've had a vision. A whirlpool that sucks in all hope of life, and at its center is that.
he's describing the final battle of Infinity War, where Vision was at the center, and Thanos eventually took his stone and placed it in the center of his gauntlet. Now, at first I thought that this was just the shared intelligence of these stones warning Thor. Now it looks like the stones were warning Thor by showing him a vision of the multiverse, where these events had already happened. Steve Rogers is shown a reality where he made it through the war and could dance with Peggy.
The war's over, Steve. We can go home.
And the vision ends with the empty room. Just like the Punisher, his own trauma has rejected the perfect vision of happiness that was sent from the multiverse. This also happens to Natasha, whose brain is so messed up that she can only see glimpses of her past that have been twisted into macabre visions of abuse. And Hulk, well, maybe his multiversal vision was of this. But the true vision that Wanda shares is with Tony. See, I don't think that Wanda knew what she was actually showing the Avengers. I don't think she read their minds and then constructed a perfect fantasy of their fears. Her powers aren't sophisticated enough. But she was able to read their emotions and send that chaos energy into their minds.
But I saw Stark's fear. I knew it would control him, make him self-destruct.
So Tony sees Thanos' army invading Earth and all of his friends are dead. Much like Thor's vision, this actually happens. Kind of. Hell, I mean, look, Steve's shield's actually broken like it is in Endgame. So in the MCU, all these characters didn't die and events didn't go down quite like this. But this is maybe how they died in other realities. So I think it makes sense that she was unknowingly showing the Avengers glimpses of the multiverse. Now, these glimpses were limited to a few multiverses that exist in the sacred timeline, because at this point, the multiverse was still small. But this experience had such a profound effect on Tony that he retained the ability for his dreams to show him the multiverse.
Last night, I dreamt. We had a kid. So real.
And this persisted throughout Endgame, meaning he had trouble sleeping.
Why are you up?
Because I got some important shit going on here. What do you think? No, I got something on my mind. I got something on my mind.
And now that the multiverse is expanding once again, other timelines are colliding with people through their dreams. But more importantly, there are more Wandas coming into contact with more Darkholds. That means more Wanda dreamwalking, becoming the Scarlet Witch, and placing the multiverse in danger. And this is why I think that Wanda will return, and she will be a key figure in the great multiversal war to come. Her powers are tied to the multiverse. She has the power of a god, and maybe she'll be the only person who can contact different universes to get them to work together against the actual big threat to come, Kang the Conqueror. But that's just my take on it. If you have any thoughts or theories, let me know in the comments below or at me on Twitter. And if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell. For Screen Crush, I'm Ryan Airy.